Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday at 8 o'clock, and you are here on the FBA Master Tech Tuesday. And today we have TaxJar. And we're actually waiting right now for the founder of TaxJar to join us. I've sent him the links, waiting for him to confirm. But what we're going to do is we're going to ask him some questions about sales tax, exactly what you should be looking at, what you should be concerned about, what softwares are out there for you, and just a little bit of the basics there. So this isn't a sales pitch by any means. This is just giving you information. But if you are interested in trying out a free version of the software, you can head over to the FBA Master site or Facebook group, and there's a link for a 30-day free trial. You can do that. You can share with as many people as you want. We do get a portion of a commission off of going through that link, but that's all we get. So I know I personally use TaxJar to file my sales taxes, but that's completely up to you and what you want to do. Okay. I just sent him another email, and we're seeing if he can join in here. Oh, there he is.
Hey.
How's it going, Mark?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, man. Sorry about that. Just a little Google issue, I guess.
I love Hangouts for the simple fact that they allow me to record straight to YouTube. But other than that, sometimes they're a pain in the butt.
Yeah. I don't have the best track record with GoToMeeting or Hangouts, so it's a miracle that I'm here.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you being here. And
yeah, great to be here.
Out on a Tuesday evening, I guess. If you're out in California, where are you out of?
Yeah, I'm in California. Yeah,
okay.
San Diego.
It's only 5 o'clock there. Here it's 8 o'clock. And I know that you know a little bit about what we're doing today. I was just explaining to everybody else. Really what I'm looking for you to do is kind of give us a little lowdown of what, as FBA sellers or people who sell on Amazon, what in the world we should be concerned about when it comes to sales tax, kind of what are the implications, and just that basic knowledge, because I find a lot of the people, especially in our Facebook groups or the ones that read our blog, are always told, well, sales tax this, sales tax that, and they really don't have a person who, because I don't like to give advice on that, because it really varies, and I know you're going to talk about that here in a few minutes, but I think that it would be good, so if people want to know about sales tax, it's kind of the go-to video to teach them about what to do.
Sure.
So I'll turn it over to you to give a little bit of your background, let us know a little information about TaxJar, and then I'll start asking some questions, but we'll just go along, and I'll be monitoring questions on Facebook and any other questions that our audience has, and I'll bring them to you as I see fit.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, sounds great. Again, super excited to be here. I am I guess, career entrepreneur now, you could say. Built a handful of companies over the last 10 plus years. Decided shortly before that I didn't want to work in corporate life anymore, right? Wanted to control my own destiny, like yourself and probably everybody listening to this.
Yeah.
And over time, really developed a passion around building products for small businesses. So became intimately familiar by starting several businesses of the pains that go along with starting a business and running a business, and take your focus away from the fun stuff, right? Like trying to make more money, things like that. And so really became attracted on trying to solve those problems, and built a couple of products around taxes, which kind of fall into that bucket, right? Of things that are a pain in the butt. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, my computer's kind of slow.
Okay. Well, I'll keep going.
Yesterday.
All right, we cool?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So anyway, fast forward to about 3 years ago, and decided to take sales tax head on. Had talked to a lot of folks that were business owners, and got to know the pain points of exactly why this can be a challenge, to put it lightly, right? For folks, especially for folks that are selling online. So we've had a product live for a little over 2 years as we're recording this. And the whole idea is to try to eliminate sales tax compliance, so that folks like yourself and everybody listening can really focus on the fun stuff and running the business. And happy to go into as much detail on all of that as you see fit.
Yeah, so I guess my first question with this is, why in the world is online sellers, is sales tax such an important thing for us to look at? Because I know when I first started, that was probably the farthest thing from my mind overall. So could you give us a little background of why it's important for people who are selling online?
Sure. And one other thing I want to be clear about is I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not a CPA. I'm a guy that has literally invested thousands of hours into researching this, talking to auditors, talking to CPAs, talking to folks that work at states to better understand this problem. I'd say where we are right now, because a big part of it is because states are desperate for money, and they're looking for new forms of revenue. And let's face it, there are millions of folks that are making a living or partial living selling online. And the states are kind of slow to the draw, although they're getting quicker, but they're seeing that there is potentially money on the table, their opinion, not mine. And they need to find a way to get a piece of that. So there is advancing state legislation. There is continually a proposed federal legislation, which I'm happy to clear up all of that. Just a lot of it is due to a lot of outdated legislation. So all of those things have kind of converged into where we are today. And, I tell folks, look, I'm not going to tell you whether or not to comply. It's really your decision at the end of the day, but it's definitely something you need to keep your eyeball on, because it is changing relatively quickly. And you need to at least spend some time watching what's going on, especially if you've just made the decision not to comply, because your hand may be forced here in the next couple of years to do so.
So now, as a FBA seller, I'll be honest, when I first started, was looking at the items. I'm sitting there going, well, I'm paying sales tax in Indiana. Why should I be concerned with what California, why do I need to worry about paying sales tax in another state that I don't live in?
Right.
And I know the whole buzzword of Nexus, and that started coming up, and I was very confused. Could you give us a brief overview of kind of why we would have to worry about other states and sales tax?
Yeah. So Nexus is the whole deal. If there's one thing you could take away from this, is understanding what that is. And basically what Nexus is a connection to a state, any of the states that where they have sales tax laws. There are 45 of them. A connection that the state deems significant enough that you would have to comply with their laws. And by comply, I basically mean follow their laws.
Okay.
Traditionally, Nexus has meant physical presence. Okay. Which the first thing most of us think of, either we run our business in that state, you're running it out of your house, you're running it out of an office space, you have a retail storefront. But where that is changing and where the line is blurring is it's starting to include, it's definitely including things like salespeople, employees, things like trade shows can cause Nexus. But trade shows, depending on the state. That's we could spend 2 hours probably talking about that one.
Don't think our audience would be
I don't think we want to go there.
That fascinating.
Yeah. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. But the one that's most relevant to this conversation, right, is inventory. Okay. So what's happened is, over the last X amount of years, again, this all comes back to states trying to expand their taxpayer base, right? What are the ways I can get Chris to pay taxes in more states, essentially, right? And inventory has become one of those areas where we're actually seeing inventory written into state laws to say, look, I don't care if you've never been to state X. I don't care if you have no intention of ever coming here. But the fact that your inventory is being stored here, that's the same as if you had a retail storefront here. Okay. And therefore, that is Nexus. and therefore what we're requiring you to do is be compliant in our state.
Okay, now one key thing I heard you say was a significant presence.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from my knowledge of this, that's kind of up for interpretation on a lot of different states. Are there no set standards of what a significant presence is in any of the states, or is it just whatever you interpret or the state interprets?
Yeah, so really good question. For the most part, for almost all of the states, it's pretty black and white. Inventory is nexus, right? Doesn't matter if you have a pair of shoes in our state or if you've got 10,000 SKUs sitting in a warehouse.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. They're both considered nexus. Now, Tennessee is the only state that comes to mind that does have a certain threshold. Okay. And threshold is, don't quote me on this, I believe it's $4,800 a year that has to be sold to residents within Tennessee to be able to then go on and comply in that state. Now, where this gets interesting and where I have at least 5 conversations like this per day is really what's the right time for me to comply, right? I understand, like, we can debate all day long whether or not it's fair that one pair of shoes counts as inventory or not. That's what the law says. What it is. Right. But what's realistic in terms of when should I actually start complying you're in Indiana, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you're trying to make a decision on when should I comply in Texas, right?
And something that new people who are just starting off in FBA, they must realize, even though you ship your items to a fulfillment center in, say, Tennessee or Kentucky, Amazon will actually ship those items across their entire fulfillment network. So at any given time, your products may be sitting in, how many states have fulfillment centers?
There's about 15 right now.
Okay. It can be sitting in one of those fulfillment centers at any given time, and you don't know that. There's a report you can run and find it, but they do it so they can quickly deliver and hit their prime 2-day shipping things and reduce shipping costs.
Yep, well said. And look, 15 is probably tiny compared to what it's going to be, right?
Oh yeah,
they have no qualms with spending their hard-earned cash on their infrastructure, and I have no doubt in my mind that they're trying to build out as many of these as they can, so that they can get to that 2-day delivery no matter where you are in the country, if not 1 day.
Or if you're in Indiana, it's the 2-hour delivery now in Indianapolis.
Sure. So,
so now when should I go, okay, I've been shipping stuff into Tennessee and I've been doing that for a while now. Oh crap, when should I start filing for Texas?
Yeah. So here's what I see and talk to thousands of FBA sellers literally over the last few years. People fall pretty squarely into 2 camps. The first camp is, look, I understand the law. I don't have to worry about this at all. I am going to comply. If that's what the law says, I may or may not agree with it. I'm going to comply right now. I've got too many other things to worry about. So if you tell me my stuff's in Texas, I'm going to comply there. I'm going to be done with it. I don't want to have to worry about potential trouble down the road. That's what probably half the people say.
Okay.
And I totally get that. The other half says, and this is the camp that I would fall into if I were in this position, I'm going to take a wait and see approach. Okay. Let's just say I'm a new FBA seller. I haven't even proven that I can sell anything yet, right? I'm just trying to make a living. Why would I go try to spend my time being compliant all the hours up front when I haven't even really proven that I can sell those pair of shoes, right? And I understand that that's the law and I'm supposed to, but I'm willing to take the risk that for the 3 sales that I made in Texas over the last 6 months, which should have accumulated into, $12 in tax, that the state of Texas is not going to find out about that. And if they do, I can afford $12 plus some small penalty, and I'll pay that. For me, that's the most realistic way to approach it, because as a guy that started a bunch
I've got to say that.
Go ahead.
That same kind of camp when I started was, why do I want to spend the time to pay something when I'm not even sure if I'm going to be doing this in a month? I'm not even sure what that's going to look like. And I would fall into that same camp. so fully understand how people could fall into that.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing, honestly, is just to try to understand what you're supposed to do. And then if you're educated about it, and that's, part of the reason why, I am happy to come on shows like this, right? Because there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of scare tactics, and I'm just trying to help folks get to a point where they can make a decision of what's best for them. Pick which camp you fall into.
Yeah.
And the other part of the second camp is that people will pick some sort of internal threshold that is kind of the trigger for when they're going to comply, right? So I'm going to keep an eye on Texas. When my sales get above a certain level, and I'm supposed to have collected $500 in sales tax in Texas, that's starting to make me feel uncomfortable, and I'm going to go comply there. So that's the way the folks think about it. And by the way, TaxJar helps them kind of monitor the other states to figure out how much sales tax they should have collected in those states.
Okay, so I know that you guys did a guest blog post on our blog this morning is when we posted, or the afternoon, whenever it came out. And if you're wondering about the process you need to go through to register in a state, they did a very nice job of all of that information. I don't want to have you repeat it here unless you just really think it's super important to do that. But they actually laid it out in very nice steps and had some very helpful links that are in there. So if you are wondering, okay, I'm in Indiana and I want to know how to register to pay sales tax, I know the TaxJar blog was how I was doing it. I'd go on and I'd follow the step-by-step instructions you guys had, and pretty easy for you to do it yourself. I know there are services out there that charge to do this kind of stuff, and if you're just really short on time, you can pay people to do it.
Yeah.
But I got to give TaxJar props because of the amount of information you guys provide to help people along that route.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And that brings up a pretty common question, if I can throw out the answer to it, which is,
Go for it.
I understand Nexus now. I understand, what I have to think about to potentially comply. Okay, let's say I decide to comply in Texas. What does that really mean? And basically the high level steps are, one, to get a sales tax license. You're basically getting a piece of paper that says from the state, okay, Chris, you are authorized, approved to collect sales tax in our state, because it's not legal to collect sales tax in a state without that piece of paper. And I'll also say that Amazon won't let you collect in a state without a permit. You need a permit number to be able to do that.
And when you get them all, you can post them on your freezer out in your garage, and you can make them feel like it's really special when you got awards. But that's besides the point.
Yeah, or you can frame them, or don't burn them or anything like that. So you get the license. You go into Amazon has a tax collection service. You basically check a series of boxes and enter in that permit number to enable tax collection in that state. Amazon will instantly, actually within 72 hours, I think, start collecting sales tax in the state. And then the way they'll do it is they will send you that cash that's collected. Chris, you know more about this than I do. Mm-hmm. With basically the revenue that you're generating. It's not.
It'll come in your biweekly payments, unless you were an early bird that gets the daily distributions.
Yeah,
it'll come out in those, and you won't actually know there's a sales tax amount in there. It just kind of all gets dropped into one amount for you.
Right, and then that's where Amazon sort of leaves the process, and then the rest is up to you. And the rest is filing the sales tax returns to those states. And then making the payment of the money that's due to the state. Important to note that really, ideally, you shouldn't be paying any of this out of pocket, right? So people say, I don't want to pay sales tax. Well, if you're using Amazon, Amazon does an excellent job of collecting. You're really just, in quotes, taking the money that they've given you and then passing it along to the state. You shouldn't be reaching into your own pocket to pay any of this.
So, okay, then, and I've got an interesting question here that I'm going to touch on. Brian just asked me, he says, has anyone seen, and you may have some people who have done this, that there's been a decrease in sales when people are starting to collect tax? Have you ever heard anybody mention anything like that?
Yeah, we get that question occasionally. Truthfully, we haven't done a deep dive in terms of any sort of analysis on what happens. I would guess that if there's any folks that are listening that are collecting sales tax, they'd probably be better equipped to answer that. But I get the sort of hesitation, right, of why you may not want to do that. And look, you have to weigh that out for yourself, right? And figure out.
If anybody doesn't know, when you're filling out your own taxes, there's a part in there that says how much did you buy on online purchases this year, and you're supposed to actually be paying that if it's through a purchase on Amazon and they're collecting it, or if it's through a purchase you made then they're not collecting it. No matter which way it is, the person who bought that has the liability, and then that liability falls on you to be paying those. Mm-hmm. So it kind of goes through, but that's a whole nother ballpark of that.
Sure.
So I guess my next question would be, where does TaxJar kind of fall in and help along this process? Because I know you guys have all the free resources to show you how to register in the States. Mm-hmm. You provide a lot of base level knowledge and some higher level stuff, but what does TaxJar actually do and help with?
Sure. So we pick up, in the Amazon case, we pick up right where they leave off, okay? So you're collecting through Amazon, and then you're faced with the challenge of filing and paying the state. So what we do when you create an account with us, we connect automatically to your Amazon account. It's a one-way connection. We don't have any access to anything other than the data that Amazon sends to us. It's called an API that developers like our team can use to build applications like TaxJar.
And you'll get 20 million open listing reports, emails right away, and you will find out quickly you can turn those off, because that is the information being transferred over to TaxJar. It's quite entertaining at first, and then you realize you can go turn those things off. But
right. So the key component of that is, for us, if you're using TaxJar, it's a one-time connection. You only have to connect it once, and then we have access to your data. You don't have to use CSVs or Excel files to keep uploading data to update your information within TaxJar. It's all taken care of automatically. So what we do is we pull that data down on a daily basis, and then we basically compile it per state, okay? So we divide it up, and I'm happy to show you this. We divide it up.
Feel free if you need to. You should be able to screen or share your screen if you need to.
Sure. Let me see if I'm ready to do that first.
And not a problem. Now, for everyone if you don't know this, every single order that you have is being tracked in Amazon, and it's actually being put in there with where it's being purchased at. And you could go in and do this all manually. I will not advise it by any means, but if you really, really wanted to, you could go in, pull the reports, see which state it's all in, do the right sorting and everything. But TaxJar is going to kind of do that automatically, so you don't have to worry about it.
Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yep, you're all good.
Okay, so what we're doing here is, this is a dashboard. This assumes that you've signed up, which signing up and connecting your account to Amazon should take maybe 2 or 3 minutes tops. Mm-hmm. And what we've done in this case, this is just all dummy data for an imaginary kind of customer here, but it's an FBA seller. We've divided up their data between the states in which they're already collecting, okay, and the states in which they might have nexus, okay. So we also give some very basic information that could be useful depending on the state for when it comes time to filing the returns, which is all this information over here, and some basic FAQs. But let's kind of go into kind of where the magic happens. Let's take a look at, one thing I should note is that for each of the states where you're collecting, we do a very kind of quick analysis on how accurately you're collecting. And the green box indicates that you are collecting accurate, and the orange flags it to say something doesn't quite look right. And the reason why we built this, and this feature is only going to get better, is because we noticed a lot of Amazon sellers were not collecting accurately. So this is a kind of a high-level way to help them figure out if they're collecting, the right amount of sales tax or not.
Very nice.
So what we've done, we'll actually take a look at Washington as a simple example. You can see that we have the due date for the next time they're supposed to file. Here's how frequently they file. This can be edited to monthly, annually, whatever it is.
And you get that information from the state when you register, just so if you're wondering where you find that information at.
Yep, exactly right. So what we've done in this case is we've taken this seller's Amazon sales and basically put it in a format that makes it really easy to file. We call this a return ready report. So this is this person's Q3 2015 sales tax report. And what this has done is broken down their sales and taxes collected by jurisdiction in the state of Washington. We also provide this jurisdictional code that Washington asks for if you go onto their website and file. So this is, if you look at this, this is our actual sales tax collected tab. This is actually how much this person collected. Okay?
You can just feel like you're investing in potholes across the nation.
Yeah, exactly. So in this case, if you remember, they had a green check mark. So they were collecting accurately. We also have this expected sales tax due tab, which in cases where folks are not collecting accurately or even collecting at all, this gives them an indication of how much should have been collected.
And that is, and I will warn you, if you have not collected any sales tax and you've been selling for a little bit, the numbers will kind of catch you off guard when you first put your information in there. Just going to throw that out there.
Sure.
From personal experience, you go, holy, explicit there, and go, oh, really need to take care of this then.
Right, and that, Chris, is one of the reasons why, or one of the ways to sort of, I guess for lack of a better way of saying, avoid that moment, right? If you're curious and you've never even looked into it before, that report will be helpful. But if you're using it to monitor to make sure you don't have that moment, these reports can be super helpful. If anybody's filing in California, you know that it's particularly painful. So what we have here is we have everything broken down by Schedule B, which is the county breakdown, and then we have Schedule A. It's longer than probably want to scroll here, but again, that's broken down on the actual basis, and then we break it down to an expected basis.
Oh, very nice.
So you can also scroll back and back if you need to go further. We have, if you're filing quarterly and you need to go file a couple of quarters ago, you could scroll back here and get those calculations for that prior period.
Okay, so now I'm seeing this information here. What in the world do I do with it? I know that I'm gonna have to file this, but I know the answer to this. But if I got all this information in here and I'm registered, now what do I do with this information?
Sure. So in the case of Washington, for example, when you sign up for a sales tax license, they will give you kind of at a high level directions on what you're supposed to do, the website you're supposed to go to, for example. A lot of the states are pushing, for folks to file online. So they'll tell you how to get there. We'll also tell you how to get there. We have in the steps to file manually. We'll show you where the website is, kind of give you some high level information. If you want to print out the paper form, you can do that. But when you actually get to the state website and start filling out the form, you'll see that it looks, something like this would make a lot more sense, right? We're providing the data that the state is actually asking for. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. So
it does. What's that magic blue button I see in the middle there that says roll an auto file?
Right. So when we first launched TaxJar, we launched it with folks that were perfectly happy with filing the returns on their own. And obviously pretty quickly folks said, hey, look, you're doing 95% of the work for me anyway. It'd be great if you could just take this totally off my hands and file the returns for me. So kind of in the spirit of what I was talking to at the beginning about we want to eliminate this whole thing for Amazon sellers. We added this auto file feature, which is an automated filing feature. And this is an enrollment. But basically, once you complete and get your enrollment accepted, what this does is file the returns automatically for you to the state. It's an extra service. It costs $19.95 for every time we're going to file. So if that's, you're filing monthly to Florida, for example, it'll cost $19.95 a month. If it's quarterly, then it's 4 times a year. But it's literally automated, so you don't have to do a thing. Once we have your information, it's been verified by the state, that return will get filed on time. If your state provides a discount for filing on time, we'll send that back to you. We won't pocket it ourselves.
That's very nice of you.
Yeah, and the payment. So in a lot of cases, customers, that'll pay for the fee, right? Because they'll be getting so much back that they'll basically be using AutoFile for free. And then the payment gets made from their bank account and goes to the state. Okay.
So I guess just a personal interest question.
Sure.
What's kind of the future plans of TaxJar? Do you guys have anything in the works that is making it even easier for people? Or is it just kind of improving the system you already have? Do you have a little foresight into that?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. We don't offer AutoFile in every state right now. Mm-hmm. We will in short order. So we've got some work to do there because, folks like the service so much they want to be able to do it in all states, and we get that. There's just an investment that we have to make to be able to do that. So we're doing that. There's also, as we are encountering more and more customers, they have unique situations that become, they go from kind of an outlier situation to become more and more popular. And we want TaxJar to be usable for all of them. So we're trying to make the reports even better and more applicable to different kinds of businesses. We work with Square sellers. Somebody might have an Amazon store, but they might also be using Square to go to trade shows or craft fairs or things like that. So as we grow and encounter more scenarios like that, we're trying to make the reports as usable and as valuable for as many types of different businesses as possible. There's some really fun stuff that we're working on. That I wish I could talk about. That will definitely be helpful, but I don't want to tip my hand. Just know that we are a customer-driven company, and we listen to customers, and we love feedback. And if there's a killer feature that would make this even more valuable for you, we want to hear about it because I hope our customers would testify to this. We listen, and we want to build what's most useful so that you can save time and feel good about using the service.
Okay, so I guess my next question would be, could you share your screen again and kind of show people the process if they want to find TaxJar and sign up for an account?
Sure.
I know I'm putting your screen back on, but I saw a tab up there that probably had that. So.
Yep. So you can go to our website, taxjar.com. And literally it's as easy as typing in your email address right here or starting a free trial right here.
Okay.
And all you need is an email address and a password. And once you do that, let me just say it's a 30-day free trial. So you don't have to put in a credit card, obviously. You can get started in just a few minutes. We'll start downloading your information once you've made that connection to your Amazon account. You'll probably see your dashboard populated within 30 minutes. But it's for the most part, it's a hands-off experience. You don't need anybody to walk you through it. We're certainly happy to do that if you need help. But almost all of our sellers find it easy enough to get started and start using on their own. Use as much as you want for 30 days. And then we have, a monthly or annual plans for folks that are want to use the service.
Okay.
So once you create an account, this is the first screen you see. You can connect to any of these platforms.
Can you connect to multiple in each account?
Yep, sure can. Yep. So if you got 3 Amazon stores and a Magento store and two PayPal stores, then you can connect all of those into a single TaxJar account, and we'll pull down all that information automatically.
Very nice. And then I know I mentioned a few minutes ago that you guys have a really nice blog section that has a lot of information to help sellers, especially. Could you kind of show a little bit of that?
Yeah, sure. So appreciate you saying that. Again, for us, we see ourselves as a little bit different in this space, that we want to share as much information as possible. And again, we're trying to arm you with the information you need to make the decision that's best for your business. Of course, we hope that TaxJar is a part of that, but we are not withholding information or making this sound more complicated than it is, because it's already complicated enough. We want you to feel empowered to make a good decision. So we work really hard on this blog. There's usually a post on here at least once a day. As you can see, we have all sorts of different categories. We have covered a lot of basic questions that sellers have, in particular Amazon sellers, where we certainly listen to them and got plenty of content here that folks have told us is super helpful, and that's rewarding for us to hear. So I don't know if you have any other sort of pointed questions to that, but folks tell us it is a really great resource and they found it to be super helpful.
Could you show the guides portion of it? Because I do like the guides that you guys have.
Sure.
That are on there. So if you are really wondering, like a starter point, I know we had somebody that popped up a question here a few minutes ago about this. If you really want to know the Sales Tax 101 or online merchants, this is the place to go. And they have these really awesome guides that can kind of walk you through everything you're going to need to know within that.
Yep. So all you need to do is go to our blog and then click on guides, and then you'll have access to. Here's our guide for Amazon. You can download it if you want to have a copy, but we basically go through all of the basics. And again, it's totally pointed, focused on the Amazon experience.
Yeah, and when I was starting to look into the whole sales tax world, this was kind of the spot I started with, and then worked it out from there once I got a lot of my basic questions answered.
Cool. Yeah, glad to hear that.
So I guess my next thing would be, is there anything else that you have that would be useful for the audience? Because there's been about 30 people on here watching so far, and usually these videos get pushed out to a lot of different people down the road. If you had pieces of advice to the audience, is there anything that you've heard or learned along the way that would be helpful?
There's plenty, right? I mean,
we could probably spend all night doing that. I know.
I mean, we could talk an hour a week for sure, and easily fill that up. For me, the bottom line is, I would just, if you're at all on the fence about this, try to learn the basics, because a lot of this is going to change, and I believe for the worse for sellers. I just think
Could you expand on that a little bit? Where do you think this is going to be in about a year or two?
Yeah.
I know how slow government works and doing everything, but when money's involved, they kind of move it a little faster.
Yeah. So we're seeing on a regular basis now states becoming more aggressive in expanding their laws to include what are called remote sellers, right? So for you in Indiana, you're considered to be a remote seller for California, right? So what we're seeing is states have this appetite. They don't want to tax California citizens anymore, right? Because that's votes. But we're sure as heck going to try to tax folks that are in Indiana, for example, right? Let's get them to comply with these remote seller laws.
That
because that's
expands your tax base tremendously.
exactly right.
Because you when you're left within the borders of your own state, there's only so many people in there, and
Exactly right.
when you do it for the other states, all of a sudden you have 49 other places you can get money from.
Yep.
People who are selling a lot of different items.
Yeah. So what's happening is states are recognizing that and are writing in clear detail in their laws now about Nexus to say, look, inventory counts as Nexus, or this type of activity counts as Nexus. They're eliminating, in a lot of cases, gray areas. They're making it very black and white. So enforcement on that, for me, is only it should be coming soon. Where we do hear anecdotally and get emails from folks and calls from folks that are going through issues with states. So enforcement is not far behind, or more aggressive enforcement is what I should say. On the federal level, there's been a hunger to have federal sales tax laws it's going back 40 years now. It seems to be hotter within the last 2 or 3 years. There are a couple of pieces of legislation that are being tossed around right now. None of them have been voted on currently. The one that most people know about is the Marketplace Fairness Act. That actually expired at the end of 2014. There's another version of that that's being tossed around right now. And that at the end of the day is not a good deal for small businesses and for online sellers in particular. So look, realistically, next year is an election year. I'm not an expert on how things work in Congress. I don't know if anybody is.
I don't even think they know sometimes how they work there, but that's besides the point.
So if I was going to gamble on it, I would say probably nothing happens by the end of next year, right? So it's left up to the states. I definitely see the states continuing to make more aggressive moves here. But who knows? Depending on who gets elected, maybe this does become more important issue, important enough to pass both the Senate and the House. It only got through the Senate last time.
Okay.
So for that reason alone, I think it's worth keeping an eye on, because it could change a lot of folks' lives if federal legislation passes.
Okay, and now my last question that's completely I get off topic, but it's relevant somewhat.
Okay.
Go into the one side of business in accounting or sales tax and decide that's where they want to go. Because if I was you, I would never end up in a million years dealing with sales tax. How did you end up going into that area?
Yeah, so the short answer is I like really boring problems. And this is not a sexy business by any means. This is not a startup that a lot of people know about or write a lot of press about, and I'm totally fine with that because the opportunity for us is massive, and it fits really well with kind of my passion for helping small businesses. I mean, I don't know anything else that is this painful.
No, I'm right there with you. Completely understand.
Payroll sucks. It's not fun, but there's plenty of companies that offer really cool payroll services. This is the one that I think it sucks the most, and been super lucky to put a team together that is really qualified to deliver here and really change the game. And for me, as sick as that sounds, that's super exciting. And I don't have any problem getting out of bed every day when I hear the stories about how we make folks' lives easier and that they don't have to worry about this. And you hear more and more of that. We've got thousands of paying customers now. It gets you super excited to solve the problem even more and help out even more people. So
that is probably the one sentence I never thought I'd hear someone utter. I get out of bed excited about sales tax in the morning.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do now is we have about 15 minutes left. I'm going to hop on. I'm going to have the questions pulled up here, see if anybody has any questions.
Okay.
And then also go on the Facebook group, see if anybody's commenting there. One question that was asked was, what do you guys kind of do with the information once you gather it from the Amazon account? Is it stored securely? Is it ever sold to anybody else? Does it just kind of sit in a warehouse of computer servers somewhere? Where does that all live?
Yeah, it's stored securely. It's not necessarily tied to kind of individual users. So there's some things that we know, but there's a lot that we don't know. So it's not necessarily easy to tie the data to a particular user, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
So, yeah. So no, we don't sell it. And in fact, I encourage folks, if they're nervous about this at all, to read our terms of service. We use bank level security, and again, we only have one-way access to the data. We don't have any access to be able to change your password on Amazon or change listings or any of that kind of stuff. It's literally, we're asking them to send us the data that we need related to transactions, and they're sending it to us. We don't have any ability to reach in and change those numbers or anything like that. It's a totally fair question, but that's the best I can answer it.
Hey, I appreciate that. I guess I'm in a little bit younger generation, and a lot of that stuff doesn't bother me. But I know that we have a little older crowd, and that whole data security bit
Totally get it.
is of interest. But I trust you guys. It seems to be working just fine for me, so that's fine. So another question I have: you guys do, and this was asked in one of the Facebook groups, you guys offer it for every state that has an Amazon fulfillment center, correct?
Yeah, we provide the reports for all of the states that have an Amazon fulfillment center. Yeah.
Okay, and then I guess the next question is say I'm in a state that doesn't have a fulfillment center. Do you guys offer it for all 50 states as well? So that if, like, I know Indiana has a fulfillment center, so that wasn't an issue for me.
Yeah.
If I'm in a state that doesn't have that, can I still file or get the transaction information through TaxJar?
Yeah, so we provide the automated reporting for every state that has the sales tax laws.
Okay.
There's 45 of them. And then, in any of those states, if you're collecting sales tax, you can get that information. And we, at the time we're recording this, will then file automatically in 23 of those 45 states as of right now.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned it earlier. Do you expect that to be 45 in the next 5 years, as long as the states will allow you to work with it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's our plan. We want to get there. We get requests all the time for states that we don't currently support. So definitely in our best interest to support as many of those as we can.
Okay. I don't have any more questions from anybody in the audience. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience at all?
No, I mean, if folks have questions, they can go to, they can email us at support@taxjar.com. We have a sales tax, this is going to sound funny. We have a group that's just about sales tax on Facebook. I don't know if you want me to.
Yeah, go for it. This
Okay.
is your time. I always like to do at the end where you get your elevator pitch.
Sure.
Whatever you want to promo, push out there, you got it. You were nice enough to give us 50 minutes of your time tonight.
Yeah, my pleasure. So go to salestaxcommunity.com. That points to our Facebook group. And yes, believe it or not, there's more than a few thousand folks that are on there. They're e-commerce sellers, and it's a great resource for anybody that has a question. There are tax pros on there answering questions.
If you can't fall asleep one evening, you can just go through and read all the posts.
Certainly can. There's more in there than you ever want to read. The blog is a tremendous resource. I appreciate you saying that. Look, we have a very hands-off approach. We want to educate folks. We have that 30-day free trial. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us, or just try the product and see if it'll help you. That's the best way to get a feeling for if it will help, is just use that free trial and determine if it'll be valuable for you or not.
I'm going to challenge anyone who's watching this. Underneath the YouTube video will be a link. We are an affiliate for TaxJar, so if you do click through that and end up using the service, we could get a portion of that at no charge to you. But what I will tell you is that it's really eye-opening if you've never done it to get the 30-day free trial and to look at what you are expected to owe in the States. I know I waited about 9 months to do mine, and I got those reports, and I was like, oh my Lord, I need to get this fixed now. And got on the phone with my accountant to try to figure everything out, because at that point it was like $9,000 I owed the States. And I'm sitting there going, I had no idea. And I really think that that free trial could offer a lot of people that kind of, oh crap, I need to get on top of this now, or I still have time to grow before this is something that I need to take care of. So kind of give you that barometer point of where you're at, and if you really need to take action right this second, like you need to get on the phone and start calling people, or if you have a little bit of time to figure out your plan.
Yep. Yeah, appreciate you saying that, and I definitely agree.
Yeah, so if you don't have anything else, I want to thank you for taking your time out tonight to come. I know it's not super night over in California, but
it's not yet. Yeah,
but I do appreciate it, and I know our audience does. Sales tax is actually probably one of the top topics in our groups. So I know this, even though a lot of people weren't able to show up this evening, I guarantee this will be one of our most popular videos on the YouTube channel, because people always have questions. And I think this is a great place for them to go and get those answers, because you did a very nice job. So thank you.
Cool. My pleasure. Happy to help anytime you need it.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. This is an FBA Master Tech Tuesday with Mark from TaxJar. And I hope you all enjoyed it. And if you ever have any other questions, go to taxjar.com. They're going to have some great support there, a lot of great resources, and be able to help you out with all of your sales tax non-sexy needs.